I don't even think I ever thought of dying.
On the 16th of April in 1945, one destroyer defied all odds in a battle that went down in history.
Every ship that had been on that picket station that we were sent to had been hit or sunk. So we knew pretty well we were going to get it.
We took more hits than any other ship at any time in one single engagement and didn't sink.
The USS Laffey sat on the front lines at Okinawa when they were attacked by the Japanese. The battle for Okinawa was the bloodiest in the Pacific War and is considered the final chapter of World War II. 1/3 of the Laffey's crew were killed or injured. But incredibly, the ship and many men survived.
I keep using the word amazing, but it's beyond belief, the things that these people did on that ship and how it didn't sink and how they survived. And yeah, it's just miraculous.
Just 19, you had the clearest blue eyes. You shipped out to sea that summer, and we didn't ask why. Hold on to America, soldier, hold on to me. Hold on. As proud as you could be. She had her first birthday before you saw her, but you said you held her in your dreams. Hold on to our life, soldier, hold on to me. Hold on to
Patriots Point is home to a fleet of vessels that once served our country. They are now permanent residents of this maritime museum to help preserve a piece of history. The destroyer, USS Laffey, sits as part of this museum on Charleston Harbor in South Carolina. Every year, the USS Laffey Association holds a reunion for the men who served aboard her. Some of these men are survivors of a kamikaze attack that made history on April 16, 1945. Ken Johnson's father, Robert Johnson, is one of those men.
On occasion, he would tell a story or two, usually the same story or two, but it never lasted long. It's almost like he didn't want to talk about it.
Ken has traveled to Patriots Point to attend a reunion of his father's shipmates. He plans to board the infamous destroyer his father fought on in World War II.
Pretty amazing when you look at that ship. How small it is. To be hit by that many planes and not sink.
Ken was raised in Toledo, Ohio in a family of 9 children. Growing up, he and his siblings were unaware of the dramatic story behind his father's experience in the Navy.
My siblings, most all of them, are pretty outgoing and friendly, make friends easily, talk a lot. And I'm sure we got that from him because Dad's always been that kind of guy.
As an adult, Ken now understands how important it is for the family to hear this story.
Obviously, as kids, we didn't ask a lot of questions we really didn't know, didn't understand. As we got older, we started finding more things out through his brothers and sister, who used to occasionally mention it. So then we'd ask, and he'd talk about a little bit about it, but not a whole lot. He didn't have a lot to share.
Ken's father, Robert, still lives in Toledo with his wife of 60 years, Nina. Only recently has he begun to open up about his experience on board the Laffey in World War II.
If you turned 18, you had to wait and be drafted. The Marines or the Navy would take you at age 17. Actually went on active duty on the 7th of January. And I would have been 18 2 weeks later.
I knew it was attacked by a lot of kamikaze planes, and a few bombs hit it in Okinawa. I didn't really know all that much. I didn't know how many people died, how many people on board. I really didn't know much about the ship or about the stories.
After sitting with his father and learning what really happened to him in the Pacific, Ken decided to take the trip to South Carolina and attend the USS Laffey reunion at Patriots Point. He wants to hear the stories of other survivors who were on the Laffey with his father. The infamous attack rightfully nicknamed the Destroyer, the ship that would not die. In the early morning of April 16, 1945, about 40 miles north of Okinawa, the destroyer USS Laffey was patrolling Radar Picket Station 1. This picket station is the front line of the American vessels surrounding Okinawa that morning. The Laffey and her crew are the closest to the approaching enemy aircraft. In a battle lasting roughly an hour and a half, the Laffey was attacked by 22 kamikaze planes. She shot down 9 of them. 5 crashed directly into her, and 4 bombs exploded on board or near enough to do damage.
They called me Speed because I didn't do anything very fast.
Robert Johnson was an 18-year-old second-class seaman when the Laffey was attacked in the Pacific.
As a matter of fact, I was in the chow hall eating breakfast. So I recall it was like 5 minutes after 8 in the morning.
I was a gunner's mate, taking care of the guns, keeping them in firing order.
Glenn Ratter, a Wisconsin native, also recalls that spring day in April.
We were standing in line for breakfast and the GQ sounded. And of course, we kind of expected it because this has been going on for some time with other ships. And we did have a little pre-warning for it. But what we did then was, of course, in our battle stations.
And really, I was trying to get something to eat.
Jim Spriggs, a third-class machinist's mate, came from Ohio to serve on the Laffey.
I was standing in the chow line, and history says that we got fed, we got our meal, but it didn't happen.
I was a torpedoman.
Robert Powell grew up in Wisconsin and was also in the mess hall when the Laffey was attacked.
As far as the torpedo crew were concerned, we more or less hung together.
For one of the ship's cooks, Danny Essig, a sailor from Flushing, New York, serving breakfast that morning came to a sudden stop.
All I could hear is guns going off. Everybody yelling and screaming. I just, what do I do now, you know?
And general quarters sounded. And so we went to our battle stations. And my battle station was in Plot. There were 5 of us, including an officer, surrounding a big computer that you'd laugh at today. Destroyers used to steam around the outside to protect the carriers and troop transports in the middle of the task force. The suicide planes would fly over us to try to reach the troop carriers and the aircraft carriers where they could do the most damage.
We were below deck, so we couldn't see what was happening. But we could tell by the times we got hit because the whole ship would shudder.
No other ship had taken the beating that the USS Laffey was about to endure.
Planes. It was enough to make you want to close the hatch and get back down there. We've been indoctrinated to the fact that the Kamikaze is what they did, and so, you know, we knew what their aim was and all that. We didn't agree with them, but I mean the same thing, our philosophy was that you don't give up your life, you fight for what you believe in, you see.
Then you'd stand there and wait. Bump. Came a suicide plane.
It sounded like a freight train hitting a big semi. I and E.J. Brown and 2 seamen went back there to dump depth charges over the side, and that's when the first plane hit the after gun mount.
The attack that would claim the lives of 32 Laffey crew and make the destroyer go down in history had begun.
You're in a battle, you're going to be in a battle, and so when it came, it was no surprise, really.
Every ship that had been on that picket station that we were sent to had been hit or sunk. So we knew pretty well we were going to get it.
Bogey was coming to the starboard side, I run to the port side. Bogey was coming to the port side, I run to the starboard side. But Bogey was coming forward. I just went like this because I didn't know where to go.
There was a fire going on in the 40mm gun emplacement, and the shells were exploding. Boom, they were in racks pointing down. If they explode, they go right through the deck. First guy I see, he said, "Johnson, turn on the hose when I tell you." So I was a hero. I turned the water on while 50 yards away, he went in there with a saltwater hose and put out the fire. I turned the water on for a hero, a literal hero who got the Bronze Star for his actions.
As fires spread through the ship with incredible speed, Captain Julian Becton began to maneuver the Laffey quickly to give the attacking planes a more difficult target. One of the crew asked Captain Becton if they should abandon ship. He replied, "I'll never abandon ship as long as a gun will fire."
And then we had to go into the after quarters to keep the pumps dry because we were actually sinking at the back. We'd taken several hits in the fantail. And so we had to go down into this compartment. all the clothing and bed stuff was gathering around the pump suction area, so we had to keep them clean so we could get the water out.
When you get hit, it would go bam, and the ship would bounce, really, and it would resonate through the ship. And really, at that point in time, I was thinking, I wasn't really scared myself. I think I felt that, you know, I was all right. I don't know just why, or too dumb to care, or be afraid, I don't know. But the thing that always went through my mind, wonder who got hurt. I was more consumed with certain death, excuse me.
18 before I saw my first action, which is young, so young. You're just not prepared for the kind of things that you do see.
A plane hitting the ship trapped 2 men in an airtight room that was filled with smoke from fire damage. Coming to their rescue, machinist's mate John Michael managed to chisel a small hole into the metal cage surrounding them. As smoke poured out, Michael, with the help of Buford Thompson, rigged a pipe through to the trapped men so they could get clean air.
They were trapped down there, and what he did was break a hole through and saved the 2 men's lives, gave them some breath, and that was enough to keep them alive.
At the same time, 2 other shipmates were working on tearing open a hole above them to pull them to safety. Because of quick thinking, they were safe and out of a room that would have killed them within minutes.
You don't think about what you're really doing, you know, and you don't care what happens to yourself. It's those around you that you're caring about, you know.
I lost contact with the bridge, and I said, well, no use me sitting here. So I went up topside. When I come up through the hatch, that's when the bomb hit the 320 millimeter guns. I just got knocked out. All I can remember is somebody. I got wounded, and the guy was dragging me down, threw me in front of the wardroom, and I lay there until, I don't know, somebody took care of me. I don't know who took care of me, but somebody took care of me.
We went up topside, swung a torpedo around, dumped them torpedoes off of there so that they, you know, if they got hit, they wouldn't explode. From then on, it was helping fight fires.
I don't even think I ever thought of dying. I don't know, maybe I was too ignorant, too young, too stupid, or whatever, you know.
Shipmates Glenn Ratter and Robert Johnson share accounts of the final plane coming to hit the Laffey. They don't remember one another, but their stories put them within feet of each other.
I got up topside just to see the last plane come in.
Well, you know, by the time I got topside, there was only one plane, if I remember correctly, that hit after that. And it was coming straight at midships. You could see it. I mean, they were shooting at it, and if you didn't knock them, blow them up before they got there, they're going to hit you no matter what. And so we ran back to the fantail.
As he was coming in, I saw something drop out from underneath. I thought, what the heck is that? There was a bomb. And everybody started running back, and I stood there because the bomb was headed back.
Where a Japanese plane had already hit the after gun mouth, 5-inch 28s. And that gun, one of the guns was pointing straight up in the air. Hanging by his legs out of the hatch was the gunner's mate that was a friend of mine. He was burnt to a crisp.
Well, when they stopped hitting the ship, when the guns stopped firing, we knew it was over.
So often the planes get through, and the planes never did get through until they started coming in from 3 or 4 different sides. The gunners were great, and this is the thing that that really saved us. And as far as I was concerned, I'm living on borrowed time.
The USS Pringle, another destroyer patrolling waters that morning, was hit by one kamikaze plane. She split in two and sank to the ocean's floor in 6 minutes. Thanks to Captain Becton's quick maneuvering, the firing of the gunners, and the effort of the entire crew on board that morning, the Laffey survived. When the skies were clear, the Laffey was a floating piece of battered metal. In a short time, Captain Julian Becton would come to realize that out of his crew of 344 men, 32 of them had been killed or were missing.
Not an easy part. Taking dog tags off of bodies, putting them in body bags, and bury them at sea. For a while you're numb.
Loss of my buddy, little E.J. Brown. What had happened, we were fighting a fire in one of the after 40 millimeter mounts. And after we got the fire out, we came down, we was going to start going up deck forward to see if we could do anything else up there. And he said, "Oh, I got to go back and get my binoculars." And I said to him, I said, "What the hell do you want to get your binoculars? Forget about them. You don't need them." "Oh, I got to have my binoculars." Well, he went back up to that 40 millimeter mount to get his binoculars, and the plane hit it. He was gone. That's the worst thing I encountered.
Human flesh, when it's burnt and mangled, it's something that you don't smell anywhere else. You know, I can't really say what it smells like, but it just was an awful odor that really makes your hair stand up. It makes your hair crawl, and it doesn't go away. It stays there for a long time.
Rigged for towing, Laffey made her way to an anchorage west of Okinawa for initial repairs. After she was deemed seaworthy, she headed stateside and eventually made her way to Pier 48 in Washington's Seattle Harbor.
We got off the ship in Seattle, and it was in the paper there.
Here's the papers, big pictures of Laffey. First ship that the American public had seen was damaged by the kamikazes. To talk about a pile of junk, it was.
At the request of high-ranking naval officials, the destroyer was going to be shown to the public.
They had taken our ship and made a showpiece out of it, tied it up, and had signs at all the holes. What happened? Bomb went off here, a suicide plane hit here, blah, blah, like that. And they were using us to sell war bonds.
The USS Laffey was home, with 32 men killed or missing and 71 injured. Several years into the war, many Americans were getting their first glimpse of the destruction of World War II. The Laffey was awarded the Presidential Unit Citation for her efforts in the Pacific this is the highest award a ship can receive. At the reunion in Patriots Point, Ken Johnson is getting the information he came for. Listening to others and exploring the ship has helped him understand how real this was for his father. His trip to South Carolina is almost over, but not before attending a memorial for those crewmen lost.
Present arms! William Lamar Morris. Jack Harris, on-driver. Ross Epworth Peterson.
I don't know how these guys look at it, the men that were on board, how they look back at that ship, and if they really realize how amazing a feat that they did. And to think that Father went through that we never really knew. Is you know, it's hard to believe. It had to have an effect on the way he lived the rest of his life. Well, I was able to go on board and see exactly where he was during the battle and what he was doing. And most of the people you talk to all say the same thing. They really didn't have time to think about it or be afraid, but I just think it's a very, very courageous thing any of those men did, to be on board and through that battle and come through it. And to see the things they saw, do the things they did, it's just amazing.
The clearest blue eyes. You shipped out to sea that summer, and we didn't ask why. Hold on to America, soldier, hold on to me. Hold on to 19. We had our baby girl in August. You were as proud as you could be. She had her first birthday before you saw her, but you said you held her in your dreams.